Dear friends, let me try this again. I'd like to welcome you to episode number 7 of Data Science Live. My name is Mr. Campanell, and I will be doing some live R coding programming and enjoying a little bit of mukbang, and hopefully keeping you company for providing a little bit of companionship for the next 20 to 30 minutes. Today's episode, we're going to style the ggplots that we worked on from episode 6. And I'm going to be using a template from the BBC News data team called BBB. I put too many B's in there. bbplot. Yes. And it's a really beautiful template that can really make your graphs look nice. I'm going to naively pretend that I know a little bit about data journalism, because really that's kind of what the theme of this episode is. And so I'd like to maybe loosen my tie here for a little bit, and let's try to get started here. Okay? So, what I'm going to do, if you're new to RStudio, is I'm going to open up a new window here, RScript. Yeah, can I do that again? Can I try that again? New. Oh, there it goes. I got 3 of them, but let's open a new one here. And I'm going to do one of my favorite things, and that is to copy and paste the code from episode 6 that we're going to need for our styled graphs. And because last week, the code is starting to get long, because we started with episode 3 and have kind of built it up on this OECD data set. So let me open up. Here it is, episode 6 on the Data Science Live blog. And so I'm just going to start to copy and paste here. Copy and paste. And go over here. We're going to put our libraries in. All right, and then I'm going to go down here. I'm going to read in my OECD file. All right, and then do everything that I needed to do on my data transformations. Put that in here. Okay, and then create some of my data sets. You can see this is scrolling down here pretty long. Okay, and put the Japan and Korea data sets here. And I am going to highlight and just hit the run button right here. And I've got all my data sets over here in my global environment. And so that's kind of what I need to do to get started. And then we're going to get on to our live coding. The other thing that I want to do is, because I've done this in the other episodes, is to post the code in the chat if I have my chat window open. Let me see if I've got it here. Chat, I'm going to post it in here. Browser. And throw it down here. Okay. There we go. So I'm on Twitch, I'm on Mixer, and I'm on YouTube for the chats. So if you're on any of those channels and put some messages in here, I'll be able to take a look and see those. All right. Let's come back here. Okay, now it's time to get started coding. So I'm going to bring in the library bbplot. If I move my mouse over here. Plot. And that's the first thing I'm going to bring in. I'm going to just run that. And the one thing about this library is when we did our install packages in episode 2, I used Crayon to install these. This template for the style template is on GitHub, and you're going to have to use dev tools to do the installation. And I will say the installation is not trivial on this package, but if you do want to use it, I'm going to just kind of pull this up here and show you kind of the URL where this, maybe that's a little bit too big. Let me just pull this over here. This is kind of I have some browser. So this is the description on it. It tells you how to install it, and it uses 2 functions, BBC style and finalize plots, which we're going to use here in this episode. So this code is going to get copied and pasted into the chat. And then the other thing I want to point out here is the BBC Data News team has really built a good documentation on it, right? You'd expect it because they're journalists and data journalists. So that's another reason why I like this package, is it's well written to understand and how to use. And they have a cookbook here of a lot of code that you can copy and paste and examples of these plots. And I'm gonna be using this and copying and pasting some of this code here for these charts because to me it's just a really nice, it's just a really beautiful template. So I'm really excited to work with it. So I'm just going to put this down right here, and I'd like to get started. So if we go back to episode 6, and we did this graph here, just a simple line graph of the fertility rates for Mexico from 1970 to 2010. And as you can see, it is a simple graph. It's a line with the dots on here show the points that got plotted, and you have the rates here on the y-axis and the years on the x-axis. But it doesn't, it doesn't look that nice. Okay, we're really going to make it look nice with this package here. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy and paste my ggplot code here that we used from the last episode. And the one thing that you'll notice about RStudio, I put all the code in here. It stays in the environment. You can use it in this window here as well. So we're just going to run this. Right, there we go. Down here at in the plots window. I think my video kind of is overdoing it, but there it is. I've got the code here. Now I'm going to do some things to it to style it up. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a plot object, and I'm going to call this next plot. Okay, and put this over here. And now for these geomes, I'm going to give it a color. And I'm going to use the recommended color that was in the cookbook. And I'm going to put a size in here as these parameters. And then on the points, I'm also going to give it the same color, and I'm also going to give it a size. Is that right, do I? Okay. And for the size of the points, I'm making it twice as big as the size of the line. If you make it the size of the line is going to just go over the points, and you're not going to see the points on the graph. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the bbplot, and I'm going to use BBC style, and that's going to be it. and it's going to style the graph. So we're going to take a look at this. I'm going to run it. And then I'm just going to run my plot object. Highlight this and run this, and this should give me my plot. Okay, so I'm going to zoom this out for you to take a look. So as you can see, the plot looks a little bit different. The colors is different. The line's a little bit wider. The colors are the same for the points, and it's a little bit cleaner. So you're not seeing tick marks here for the years. It really doesn't have the year on here or the rate on the x-axis to describe it. You've got your numbers. It's not a grid. You just have certain lines. It's a simple, clean plot. Now, we're going to do some things to really style it up here next. I'm going to close this out. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some titles and a subtitle to this plot. So I'm going to use labs, L-A-B-S, for labels, short for labels. And I'm going to say title. I'm going to equals, and because this is data journalism, I have to give this plot a headline. I don't want to give it like a typical data description type of headline. It really has to relate to the story. And so this is going to be shrinking family. And then I'm going to give it a subtitle. And the subtitle can kind of be really related to what the data is. And man, I'm having a hard time with my keyboard. Title equals, and this is going to be Mexico fertility rate. (1970) through 2010. Okay, give this a run here. And I'm going to also run the plot too. Great. So let's zoom this out and you get to see the titles on here. So this is pretty good. They already have the header for the title, and the subtitles are formatted in kind of a nice style. Everything is shifted here. We don't have it centered, but the BBC style likes to have it on the left-hand side. And because, we have the subtitle about the year 1970 to 2010, you see that? We don't really need to have year on the axes, the x-axis, and we're describing that it's Mexico fertility rates, which you can assume that's on here on the left side. Sorry. But the key thing is here is on data journalism side is you've got the headline, the talk about the data, and you're centered right here on looking at this plot here, which is you can see through the 20 years from 1970 to 1990, you have some high fertility rates, and then it really sharp decline, and then that decline levels off into 2010 to where it's just about 2.1. So it went from 6.7 to 2.1 in 5 decades. So that's the story that we're trying to tell here. So that's that graph, and now let's take a look at our second graph that we did in episode 6, and we're going to do a little bit more tweaking to it. But before I close this down, I do want to go over a couple things here. We put the size, the group. Okay, so we're ready to go to our next plot here. So the next plot is, let me just pull it up here, off of here. We're going to do, I'm just going to copy this right here. And I'm going to call this JK plot for Japan and Korea. Now I'm going to make one change here that I'm going to change the shape out to color, I believe. Yeah. Color equals country. And then I'm going to have to give it some colors. But first of all, I'm going to just change the size equals 1.5 and the point size as well equals 3. And then I'm going to add another geome here. I'm going to add the H line, and I'm going to give it a y-intercept, and I'm just copying and pasting this data right here that I've already worked through on this one. The y-intercept of equal 1, so, and then size of 1 and then color. So what this is going to do is this is for a horizontal line, and I want to just draw a line on this plot at a y-intercept of 1, make kind of a thin line, not such a prominent line, and give it a color of 3.3, which is a gray line. And then I'm going to add another object here, and I'm going to call this scale, C-O-L-O-U-R, manual. And I'm going to give it the colors that I want to plot these lines and these points. And these are colors that were recommended on the bbplot cookbook. So those are their default colors. And then I'm going to add my style here. Style. And then after your style, I'm going to start to add my labels. Labs. Title equals, okay. And my subtitle is going to be okay, and then add my object. Okay, so I'm ready to run this, and we're going to see what comes up here. And if you notice, there's some font family messages in here. It's because the default font for bbplot is Helvetica, and on Windows, that's not a default font. The default font is Arial, and that's what it's moving it out to, but it's giving me those warning messages. So let's take a look at this one here, and as you can see, we've got our two colors here, and the yellow is Japan, and the blue is Korea. We have a little bit of a legend. Yeah, what happened to the family in Japan and Korea, because they have these really low fertility rates. Korea is a real story here as well, because from 1970 through 1990, it was an even sharper decline than what we saw in Mexico, and then it just kind of keeps getting a little bit lower in the 2000s, but now it's really started to really drop off from 2000 to 2010. So there's a story there, and I've read stories about the declining birth rates in both of these countries, and they're fascinating stories. So the headline title here, "What Happened to the Family?" Yeah, because it's dwindling. The size is really just three people in these countries, in about half the cases in Korea now, rather than the nuclear 4-unit family that's in most of the developed Western, in the developed worlds, in the developing countries, that's what this OECD data is. It's the 75 richest countries in the world, and so these are the developed or the near-tier developed countries. So that is that graph there, and then the last thing I want to do for today on the bbplot is use the other function, which is the finalized plot. So if you're doing data journalism and you might want to have a plot or a printout or an image that you need to create, since most of these companies that hire data journalists that have these big teams are the BBC News, Financial Times, Washington Post, are like three companies that come to mind that really have dedicated data journalism teams. So if you're looking for a career in data science, you like to write, you like graphics, you like programming, maybe you might take a look at data journalism. It might be a career for you. So on to creating the image here that we're going to use. So I'm going to start here with, I'm going to do finalize plot, and the plot name that we're going to use here is the JK plot. Okay, we're using that object. Now, since this is written by data, a news organization, you want to put the source of the data for transparency and for the truth. So, right, the facts, source, I'm sorry, I'm going to put source equals, and I'm going to put my quotes here, source and OECD fact book 2013. All right. And then I'm going to write this out to my drive. And I have this written here because I don't want to type that in because I will misspell it multiple times here. So put that in here. And then we're going to give it the width and the height. So with pixels, right, equals, I'm going to give it 640. And then height, HEIGTH, pixels, right, equals 450. And then I get to put a logo. You can put the logo for your organization. So you'll see the BBC logo on there. But my logo for Data Science Live is E, which is the panda that you see on the website all the time. So logo image path, and I'm just going to copy it here. And is that right? Maybe that's it. And I'm going to run this. And it should write it out. That's what it's doing right now. And let me see, does it give me a view of this? Oh, yes, it does. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So in my plot, you're going to see it show up here. And let me just move it over here. So again, we've got the size on this image the way that we specified it. It's a PNG file. And then we have our little source footnote down here. And then I've got the little logo on here. So this is not a nice package to create to create plots. And then if you want to put these things onto a blog, you can add those to your blog or to your article that that you have in your digital publication. So wonderful opportunity here on data journalism to get used to taking a look at a really nice really nice style template. And now, time for mukbang today. I'm going to leave this code open up here for you to copy and paste. And then, like I said, you want to go over here and copy and paste it into a new tab or another tab or the same tab, as long as you have all the code there together. The code from episode 6 is already on the blog, which I'll post that one onto the chat as well, so that you can get to that real easily. And then I get to talk about what I'm going to eat right now, and that's one of my favorite parts of the episode here. So what do we got here today? If I can show that, yeah. That is some here. We'll pull it back here. That is some noodles. It's Alaska. It's a southeastern kind of curry noodle dish, Southeast Asian curry noodle dish. First time I had it, the restaurant told me it was a Malaysian dish, but I think you can find it in Indonesia and Singapore as well. So I'm going to chew on this, work on this for a little bit, and then we'll come back for the recap. I see you're getting a look at the top of my bald head while I eat this, because I have to put my face down into the noodles into the bowl to slurp it up. Maybe I'll try to maybe slurp up the noodles here. Well, we'll see. Yeah. If you noticed, I had a little bit of a later start today. I was fiddling around with getting the stream started. There was some issues on the firewall. My son set himself up a Minecraft server last night, and he was doing some firewall issues. And well, I'm going to have to take a look at those and make sure that we've got the firewall set up here properly, so that I can stream again and not get those messages. So I'll give you about 2 to 3 more minutes to play around with the code, and then we'll wrap it up. So to wrap it up, what we did here, we stylized a graph that looked like this from last episode to something that looks like this today. And this is using the bbplot package that has a style template for ggplot, and it really gives your plot, I would say, a bang to really emphasize what is actually going on in the data. It keeps things like the axes to a minimum and the grids to a minimum, gives you opportunities to create headline stories for the plot, and you can put the subtitles about the data as it goes into the subtitles. The legend is centered properly, and then you have opportunities to cite the sources, your data sources, because when you do data journalism, you want to deal with the facts and where this data comes from, and then you can have an opportunity to put your little logo on there to show the official source of where the work comes from. So I hope you get a chance to get bbplot installed and work with it on with your ggplot 2 graphs. It's really nice. I love it, and to me it's been the best style template that I've seen to come out of the R community. So I hope you have learned a little bit here today. I will post all the code and the plots onto the blog, datasciencelive.com. So keep practicing, and please subscribe to my channel. Turn on the notifications for when I go live. I appreciate your companionship with me here today. And until the next cast, goodbye for now, dear friends. Bye-bye.